How's everything with you?
Yeah, very well, very well. I'm going to make you a co-host.
Very kind of you.
So, without further ado, I will pass over to our very esteemed guest, Dr. Sohail Hanif, who is the Chief Executive of the National Zakat Foundation, who will be talking us through how to calculate zakat in a really practical way.
Thank you so much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Very warm welcome. Really appreciate the partnership with NISPA in sharing this presentation today on everything that we feel you need to know on how to calculate and pay zakat. I'll be covering the following topics, very brief pit stop on the importance of sharing the message. Then 3 things I think are worth keeping in mind to understand why we have a zakat in Islam, followed by answering 5 questions, which will really give you a good sense about what zakat really is, how it works, followed by 6 questions I'll answer just on the nuts and bolts of the calculation. I'll be sharing with you, don't worry if you don't manage to catch everything I've said, if you haven't managed to write down every word I've said, don't worry about it whatsoever, because I'll be sharing some fabulous online resources, which really will be everything that you need, I think, to keep track of what I've shared today and to help you calculate and pay zakat. A few brief remarks on the where and when, on the where of paying zakat, and something about how we can work together to support the community. I'll do my best to speak for about 35 to 40 minutes. Please type the questions as they come to you. My hope is you'll find the answers to your questions also within the course of the presentation, and I'll take all of your questions, inshallah, at the end. Whatever I can't answer, it's fine. We've got the NISPA experts here, and also we've got some online resources I'll be sharing with you as well, but God willing, we'll be answering all your questions as well. So really brief comment here, just that the first 4 bullets on that slide are all snippets of hadiths about the virtue and importance of conveying sacred knowledge. It benefits you after you leave this world. It's a source of prayers from everything actually in existence. Even if you're not a scholar, you've been encouraged, just convey what you know. The religion, all of it is wanting well for others. And so even if we're not scholars, as long as we're connected to scholars with resources, with support structures, we can educate other people. So if you want to present the exact presentation I'm presenting with today, it's not hard. There's a link here, and I'll show you where you can find it on our webpage in a little bit. If you want to ask, you can just say, I want to volunteer, but at its core, you can just say, please train me to train people. But that's enough. And you can present this in your workplace, in your mosque, in your community, in your family. Very happy just to facilitate the sharing of knowledge. Now, why do we have a zakat in Islam? There's 3 things I personally feel are really worth keeping in mind. The first is that the word zakat means purification and growth. And what that speaks to is that the very first beneficiary of zakat is the giver. The giver benefits from zakat before anybody else. And that's because of this notion of purification. What is purification here? It's that when a year passes over your wealth, it's no longer all yours. A part of it now is the property of the needy. If you do not give it to them, it's like you're stealing, usurping somebody else's wealth, and there's no blessings in stolen money. And so there's no blessings in wealth, and there's no blessing in what you do with that wealth. Whereas if you expend the zakat, you've protected the rest and you've maintained the wholesomeness of the rest. And that ties to the other word in the meaning of zakat, which is growth, tied to the ongoing promise of Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is that if you spend for the sake of Allah, Allah will increase you. It's ongoing promise in the Holy Quran. And so how do you really invest and grow? The fundamental unit of investment is zakat. The foundation of your growth, the foundation of your financial planning, the foundation of your blessings, all of that, let it start here with zakat. Number 2, the rules of zakat we're about to learn today were revealed to our Prophet ﷺ in the 2nd year after the hijrah to Medina. The migration to Medina is when the Prophet ﷺ started the building of this civilization, if you like, a community. Which means the Quran had been revealed 15 years prior to the revelation of zakat. So the question that arises is, what was the Quran's interest in charity, let's just say, in the first 15 years before zakat was taught in the rules that we're going to learn today? And the answer to this question is, the Quran had a lot to say about it. You could say, if you study the Quran almost chronologically, you could say the Quran clearly came to challenge its society in two clear challenges. One is the challenge of the belief in one God and what's connected with that, the belief in resurrection and prophethood. But the other part is a very clear challenge in what we would today term social and economic justice. The Quran speaks a lot about the needy, the orphans, the refugees, people who are not from town and not from here and they're struggling. Really a lot. Very stern messages came early in the revelation that if you're not caring about the downtrodden, God will ask you about that on the day of judgment. And so the idea of care and concern for the downtrodden and marginalized is not just a way to score points with God, sorry to use that phrase, but it's really part of the blueprints of the Islamic message. I just wanted to say that as well. What we're discussing today is an essential feature of this faith called Islam. It's not an add-on. It's not just a good thing to do. It's the core character of what the Prophet brought, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Point number 3. When the Prophet migrated to Medina, he laid the foundations of a new civilization, an Islamic civilization. And he said that this civilization is built upon 5 principles, we call the 5 pillars of Islam. Testifying that there's one God and Muhammad is his messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, praying the 5 prayers, giving the zakat, fasting Ramadan, performing the Hajj. 5. These 5, we learn about them and we think about them as pillars in our individual and personal practice. But they're more than that. These are the very pillars of this civilization. It's the very pillars of this society that the Prophet brought into the world, because each of these work together to create what you can call a faith community or an ummah. If you look at prayer, for example, prayer is, I believe, Islam's greatest social institution. Prayer is something for the sake of which we're told to pray in a group. Prayer is something for the sake of which we're told to establish places where people can gather in congregation. Those places, or the mosques, what makes a mosque is not walls or pillars or minarets. It's just the designation that this place now belongs to Allah. And all who believe in Allah and His Messenger have equal access, equal rights, and they pray shoulder to shoulder. It's very powerful. It's the first thing that really puts in the psyche that I belong to a community of faith, united not by ethnicity and economic status, but by this belief in Allah and His Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so it creates the notion of a faith community. And you'll find that even in Britain, where we've had long-standing mosques, it's anchored a community of faith. People move there, people have halal butchers and restaurants and charity projects and clubs for children, and maybe women have social clubs around that community. And even if you're not entering the mosque to pray, it anchors an entire community. All of the pillars work like this, by the way. Ramadan is a time we eat together and pray together way more than any other time of the year, in greater quantity than any other time of the year. Hajj is a time you travel to witness the global faith community. The first testimony of faith is a testimony to the community. I believe what you believe, and you join this community that the pillars are forming. Zakat is like this. So zakat is not charity in general, but it works along with these 5 pillars to be a foundation of a community of faith, which is why zakat has 2 really interesting constraints. One is that it's paid to Muslims. So the message of zakat is that the tie of faith is like the tie of blood. And so just like a duty of care exists between your blood family, a special duty of care, similarly, a special duty of care exists within your faith family, and the name of that duty of care is zakat. The other interesting constraint is that our classical schools of Islamic law, they held that zakat is in its sunnah, in its ideal expression, paid in the place where you live, literally, actually in the city or town where you live. Why is that? What does that create? It creates this, what can I say, responsibility, this feeling. As a pillar of my faith, I need to care for the people who believe in Allah and His Messenger where I live. That creates this need. Who are the Muslims? What are their needs? Are their needs fulfilled? Are there people I can trust with my money? It creates jobs and, well, leave the word job for a second. It creates roles, it creates responsibilities, it creates infrastructure, it builds community. What you'll find actually is the entire sacred law has this interest of how do you experience faith in community, which is this Arabic word ummah. Many hadiths are about why faith should be experienced in community. The Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the hand of Allah is with the group. So if you want to find the safety of being under the hand of God, it's by serving the community. It's not by running off into the corner. The Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the devil is with the one who's by themselves, but when there are two, the devil is further away. The idea is when you have faith in community, like we have a community in this call today, it's not a one-on-one session. We are together learning. When you have a communal experience of faith, you talk together, you remind each other, you support each other, we help each other across the finish line. The best thing we can do for the next generation of believers is we invest in our communal ties and infrastructure so that they have the opportunity to learn about Allah and His Messenger in the comfort and warmth of community, not in the cold as outliers. And in this vision of faith in community, you'll find the two most repeated pillars of our sacred law are salat and zakat. Because salat brings together the faith community in space, and then zakat says, now that you're together, create the systems you need to look after each other. And that becomes the foundation of a real tie. So 3 things I want you to keep in mind about why we have a zakat in Islam. The giver is the initial beneficiary of zakat. Number 2, care for the downtrodden and needy of the blueprints and essential features of the Islamic message. And number 3, zakat is one of 5 pillars that really bring together and form and create a community of faith. Good. Now we get into the details. I'm going to be answering, inshallah, the following 5 questions. Number 1, is zakat on all wealth? The truth is, the answer is no. Zakat is not easily depicted. It's not income tax. And it's not what people would call wealth tax. It's very hard to depict. In classical jurisprudence, what our scholars say, zakat is paid on growing wealth. What does that mean? The rules of zakat are designed that you shouldn't feel the burden. You should never feel, I have to run away from this institution because I'm losing an arm and a leg. Rather, you should feel the time has come for my annual haircut. What's the difference? If you're blessed with hair, because I have to always put that provision because I give this example and I don't have a lot of it myself, but if you are blessed with hair, what you'll realize, you do not feel the pain. And even I used to go to a barber. I know what it felt like. You do not feel the pain of losing hair. You don't feel, what have you done? You've taken my hair. You don't feel that. Why? Because it's growing. It's coming. You don't feel the pain of it. You don't feel the loss of it. And it actually probably makes you look better today. Zakat is only on the forms of wealth that are like your hair. There you go. That's the depiction. What does that mean? It's the forms of wealth that all year long you're trying to grow. And why is it like that? Because if you take something away, it's okay. Your activity over the year will fill that gap again. Whereas if you lose an arm and a leg, that's it. You've lost it for the rest of your life. Zakat is not on those forms of wealth. Now, all human societies, all of them, are centered on a core economic activity, which we're all trying to grow. And as it grows, you become wealthy, powerful, influential, and so on. So there's animal herding society. That's why there's zakat on animal heads. There's agriculture, because animal herding is your whole activity is your animals have babies and your flock grows. Simple as that. Agricultural societies, your whole activity is produce, new growth. So this is zakat on produce. We inhabit the third economy. It's a trade and services economy. In a trade and services economy, everyone you meet, we might be doing different forms of economic activity, but everyone you meet is trying to grow one thing. And the one thing they're trying to grow is the medium of exchange. Because as the medium of exchange grows, you are wealthier, you're more influential, you're more able to access trade and services. And what's the medium of exchange is what we call money. So in our economy, it's really easy. Zakat is only paid on money and what is money like. And I specifically mean 4 things. Very easy list. Your money, because that's actually the money. Gold and silver, because traditionally and historically, these have always been the most reliable global forms of money. And although currencies are no longer backed by them, we're in this 60-year blip. All of history of civilization has had a basic backing of gold and silver as a reliable form of money. For the last 50, 60 years, it's not been backing that system, but we're in an exceptional historical period. And no one knows how long this period will last. And so and we'll come back to gold and silver a little bit later, but that's why gold and silver is on the list here. And the last one is trade stock, because I called it a trade economy. What's the main way you make money grow in a trade economy? Is you get the money, put it into some goods, could be anything, cars, books, hijabs, and you liquidate those goods and hopefully you get more money. That's it. That's the main way you grow money in our economy. And so trade goods, trade items are basically fully liquid and fully money in the eye of the trader. And so these are the 4 things you pay zakat on: your money, your gold, your silver, your trade stock. Nothing else is paid zakat on unless it contains or acts as one of these 4. So later on, I'll talk about shares, I'll talk about pensions, I'll talk about crypto, but I'll show that we only pay zakat on them if they contain or act as one of these 4. Because zakat is only on what's money and money like. So it's really easy, very straightforward. It's a long story to get there with hair and animals and all of that, but the conclusion is really easy. Next one. How much do you have to have? So the Prophet ﷺ determined a minimum threshold for each of these economies. Sheep, cows, camels, they each have a minimum. They each have a nisab, which is the Arabic word. Agriculture, our economy, trade and services, the Prophet ﷺ, he laid the threshold in terms of gold coins and silver coins, because those were the main items in this economy. 20 gold dinars, 200 silver dirhams. Similar value in his time, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but over time, silver depreciated with respect to gold. Scholars said use the one that's best for the poor. Traditionally, it's meant using the silver one, which is what I'll share in my presentation today. Happy to answer further questions you might have on this. So the nisab, as measured in terms of silver, at this moment in time is about £1,000. Again, happy to take more questions on that. What makes you a zakat payer? It's when your money plus your gold plus your silver plus your trade stock take away your debts and liabilities. If that final number is above this £1,000 threshold, then you pay 2.5% of that final number. When do you calculate this? The rules of zakat, like I said, have been designed to facilitate participation. You don't need a spreadsheet. You don't need an accountant. It's something anyone should be able to do. And so what is the calculation? Why is it made easy? How is it easy like this? It's only a snapshot calculation. One day of the year, you calculate zakat. The other 364 days, you just carry on with your life and your economic activity. Sorry about that. I used the lunar calendar and solar calendar, that calculation. The lunar calendar is what we use. It's got how many days on the lunar calendar? But let's say 354? I don't know now, something like that. So one day of the year, you calculate zakat. The other 353, just carry on with your life and economic activity. You don't need spreadsheets. You don't need to figure out when the money came, when the money went, because that would be difficult. That would make participation hard. We want participation to be easy. One day of the year is all. On that day, what do I have of money, of gold, of silver, of trade stock? On that day, what do I owe other people of debts and liabilities? On that day, am I above the nisab of that day? 2.5%. Really easy. The only hard thing is figuring out the day. So I'll tell you how it's ideally done. I had to, do you know silver? I hope NISPA is advising you all to invest in silver. Maybe it's too late.
We don't give advice. We don't give advice.
That's good, because I don't give advice either.
Yeah.
I was about to say that as well. I'm not giving anybody advice myself. But just to let you know, I've been giving this presentation for the last 4.5 years. I've never had to change the figures until yesterday.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I've always said the nisab is about £400. From before I joined, I kept it. It fluctuated, but not enough to have to change the presentation. Yesterday I had to change the presentation because in the last 6 months it's gone up by like threefold. It's now about around £1,200, £1,050, £1,050. So definitely there's a lot of movements right now in silver and gold. But anyway, I'm not giving investment advice myself either, just noting from my vantage point. So how do you know your date? Very simple. First time in adulthood, and by adulthood I mean after puberty. First time after puberty that your money plus gold plus silver plus trade stock minus debts and liabilities, the final number, was above the nisab, what you were meant to do was to note the date, not pay the zakat, just note the date. Ideally on a lunar calendar, helps you keep track because we do zakat on the lunar calendar. Then 1 year later, just calculate again. Am I still above the nisab threshold? If you are, now you pay 2.5%, and that's your date for the rest of your life. Next year, above the nisab, 2.5%. Next year, above the nisab, 2.5%. That's how you keep going, unless 1 year you are below that nisab on that date. If you're below the nisab threshold on that date, then two things happen. One thing is that you don't pay zakat. One thing is that you lose the date. And you'll wait till you next cross the threshold, note the date. 1 year later, still above the threshold, pays zakat, and that's your new date. That's how it's meant to work. Now, many people learn about zakat later in life and they don't know the date and they haven't figured all of this out. The right way to do it is to estimate your date. How do you do that? Maybe the first time you had any reasonable money into your name is after university and your first paycheck. So estimate when you got your first paycheck. Maybe you went to university, you had got your first big transfer of money from your dad in your own personal bank account. Maybe that's your date. Maybe your parents have huge investments in your name when you were a kid, in which case hitting puberty was your date. Maybe you're a boom to bust business person, in which case your last time you went from bust to boom, that's your date. Maybe you had no serious money in your name, but when you got married, you got a huge gift of gold. Maybe that's your date. That's it. To your best guess, figure out an actual date from your life, because that's how it's meant to be working. And that's the date on which you understand your zakat liability and you pay it. If you really can't do that, then fine. Pick a date arbitrarily if you can't estimate, and then you stick to that date. There's no notion zakat is due in Ramadan. Zakat is due on your date. Many givers like to pay in Ramadan because of the blessings of the month. The best way to do that is to treat it as a prepayment, sorry. Let's say my real date is 5 months after Ramadan. So what do? I want to pay in Ramadan, it's fine. Just estimate. I think my zakat's going to be £500. Pay £500 in Ramadan. When your date comes, then you calculate. Then you know your actual zakat liability. If your actual liability is £600 and I paid 500 in Ramadan, that's fine. Just pay one more 100 and you're done. No harm in prepaying. If your real liability was £400, but I estimated 500 in Ramadan, that's fine. I've paid 100 extra. The extra, you can consider it extra charity. Or if you wanted to, you can carry it forward to the zakat of the next year. It's possible to prepay zakat for the next year as well. That's all good. So you can prepay in Ramadan, but really it's due on your date. And I'm giving you a sense of how to find the date. The zakat timeout, what I mean by that is, do you miss it? Is it like an event? Oh, I missed my zakat for this year. Oh, well, I'll do it next time. It's not like that. Zakat is a debt to the poor, so it's always due. You just have to find a way to pay it. If you're someone that's never paid zakat and now you're learning about it and it sounds all very scary to you, my advice to you is don't worry about the past. Take care of the present. How do you take care of the present? Figure out your date. Then figure out when you last crossed your date. Then figure out what you owe on that date and pay it. That's it. Now you're covered for the year that you're in. Figure out when your next date will next come. Make sure you're ready for that. So make sure you've taken care of your present. After that, find an afternoon. It'll be hard. Just find an afternoon to your best guess. That's all you have to do, to your best guess. You want to go back in time on your date and figure out what would be that zakat that I've missed out on write down that number and then make a plan to pay it that is manageable for you. Could be even as simple as a £10 a month direct debit. It's all good, but it doesn't time out. It's always due. Now, can any payment count as zakat? The answer is no. Zakat has to be intended as zakat, so we can separate it from other forms of our giving. And the intention can be made at any point before the recipient consumes the payment. Now, an addendum to that, can somebody else pay zakat for you from their money? The answer is yes. Why? As long as you approve of it, then it counts as your intention. And this happens a lot in families and businesses. How does that work? One spouse, let's say, for example, the husband, can say to the wife, I'm paying all of our zakat right now. How much do you have? So the husband pays it from the husband's money. That's absolutely fine. It counts as a zakat of the wife as long as she is aware of it and approves of it, because that's her intention. Happens in business. One partner might calculate and pay on everyone's behalf. It's absolutely fine, as long as the other partners are aware of this and approve of it, because that's their intention. Okay, so now we've answered 5 basic questions. Is zakat on all wealth? No, it's money, gold, silver, trade stock. How much do you have to have above a particular threshold? At this moment in time, it's about £1,000. When do you pay it? On your date. I've told you how to find your date. Does zakat time out? No, it's always due. Can any charitable payment count as zakat? No, you have to have the intention at any point before the recipient consumes it. We've done basically all of it now. Now it's just fine-tuning this information into the following 6 questions. What's the formula? I've said this so many times. We don't need this slide. Money plus gold plus silver plus trade stock minus debts and liabilities. The final figure, if it's above the threshold, 2.5%. Very easy. Done. Money. Money is really easy. Money is money. Just add it up. Digital, physical, in your pocket, in your wallet, pounds, dollars. Just put it into a common currency, add it all up. Nothing hard. You do not have to worry about money you earned and spent during the zakat year. Like I said, the rules are designed to be manageable. So the fact that that's why it's not an income tax. So maybe you earned money and you spent it on something. That's fine. It's no longer with you now that you have to pay the zakat tax on it. The zakat tax, if I can use that word, is on the money you actually have on your date, not what you earned and spent. The only tricky thing in money is money that's yours but in somebody else's hand. How would this arise? You lent somebody money and you're waiting for it to come back. You're expecting it to come back, but you're waiting. Or you're a trader and you sold a trade item and you're waiting for the payment to come. These 2 instances are your money and you're waiting for the repayment. So you've got 2 options. You do owe the zakat on it, but you don't have it. So there's 2 options. One option is you pay the zakat on it anyway. Let's say it's a 3-year loan, and each year you just put that money in your calculation. So you pay the zakat on it each year. The advantage of that is once you receive the money, you've already taken account of its zakat liability. You can just keep it. Very easy. The other version, if that loan was big, then what you might find easier is not to pay the zakat on it while it's away. Wait to receive it, and then you backtrack what its 3 years worth of zakat would have been. Pay it and you keep the rest. So 2 options on money that's yours but not in your hand. Gold and silver. All scholars agree there's zakat in gold and silver. The debate that they have is on jewelry that people wear. Some scholars felt that this has become like a fixed asset, like your clothing. It's no longer money-like because you're wearing it, like you wear your shirt. It's no longer money-like, no zakat is on it. Some scholars felt, so that's some schools of law, some scholars, which is the Hanafi school of law, very predominant in the UK, they felt no, even if you're wearing it, it still retains its money-like property. Why did gold become popular as jewelry, e.g. upon wedding? Because it's a reliable store of value. It can be liquidated easily anywhere in the world, and it's a very good way to stay financially safe. So it is money-like, even though you're wearing it. And so we teach both opinions, and we let people choose the one that suits their understanding and practice. If you are going to pay zakat on jewelry, just calculate the value of the gold using a scrap gold value. It's a bit lower than the bullion value. It's what a jeweler would pay you for it. Our online calculator has this in it. I'll show it to you in a bit. And it has to be 50% pure. So less than 12 carats jewelry has no zakat on it. Last of the four major zakatable assets is the trade stock. Trade stock is anything you buy to sell, and that's still your intention. So if I buy something for personal use, like a phone, now I've put it on eBay to sell, it's not a zakatable item. I didn't buy it for that purpose. And if I buy something to sell it, but then I decided actually I want to start using it for myself, it's no longer a zakatable asset because I've changed my intention. It should be I bought it to sell it, and that's still my purpose with this item. These items, you pay zakat on their market worth on the zakat date, not what you bought it for. But if you were to sell it today, what would you get for it? Basically, that's what you add to your zakat calculation. Because intentionality is important here, that it affects our answer to some of these items. If somebody is buying a second home, is there zakat on it? The answer is we don't know. We have to ask about their intentions. So if they say it's a long-term investment, we say, well, what do you mean by long-term investment? They'll say, for example, well, I don't want money sitting around and depreciating. I thought I'd put it into property. And then they say, I don't know, maybe I'll sell it. Maybe I'll move into it when I retire. Maybe my son will get it when he gets older. This person is not trading in property. They've got no clear trading intention. They do not pay zakat on the value of that property. Second scenario. Someone bought second property. We say, why did you buy second property? They say, well, I want to put it on rent. It's a good income source for me. Maybe I can stop working when I'm older and look after myself. I said, okay, good. This person, the property itself is not a liquid holding. They didn't buy it to sell it. So the property itself is not a zakatable asset. As for the rental income, like I said, you don't have to keep track of money that comes during the year. But whatever they have left over at the end of the year, yeah, you'll pay zakat on that money. That's it. That's the extent of the zakat on rental property. Resale. If somebody says, I bought a second home because I'm going to fix up the paint, I'm going to fix up the plumbing, I'm going to put a new kitchen, I'm going to put it on the market. And my full intention is, my hope is, I'm going to make a markup of £50,000 or something. This person is trading in property. This person has to pay zakat on the market value of that property on the zakat date. If they don't have that kind of cash lying around, that's fine. They should calculate it. And when they sell the property and they get the money, then they can pay its zakat out of it. But you do pay zakat on that. So you get the idea. Many cars for personal use, no zakat. Many cars for rental, no zakat on the value of the cars. Many cars for resale, zakat on the value of those cars. So those are my four big items. Let's look at some modern assets now. Shares, stocks and shares. Shares are a part ownership of a company. Some people trade in shares. They buy them to sell them. If that's your clear intention, then you're trading in shares. It's a trade item for you. You owe zakat on the full market value of those shares on your zakat date. Other people hold shares for longer term holdings. Those people aren't trading in the shares. Maybe they got them as part of a payout package from their company. But those shares represent part ownership of all assets in that company. Those assets include money, gold, silver, trade stock. So you are an owner of some zakatable wealth through those shares. So what you have to do is estimate what proportion of the company's worth is zakatable. Maybe 20% of Apple is zakatable, for example. And then it becomes 20% of the value of your shares becomes zakatable. That's what we say. You can do this calculation yourself from the company balance sheet. A few years ago, we had some muftis go through the FTSE 100 stock exchange public listed companies, and they felt that the zakatable proportion was never more than 25%. And we recommend that if people don't want to do any hard work of the calculation themselves, if you just paid, what does that mean? 2.5% of 25% of the value of your shares, that will be enough. Very slow transition to the next slide. This next slide is very tricky. It's controversial, makes people upset. I don't you don't have to listen to what I'm about to say. You're most welcome to get other advice from other providers. This is the advice that the scholars we work with have advised us, and this is the advice that we're giving. It's about pensions. Pensions, why is it so tricky? Because pension is like, it's locked away. I can't take it out. I'm going to be 55 or 60 when I touch it. And why do I have to think about it today? So what we advise is as follows. There's a defined benefit pension schemes, which is where there's no investment in your name while you're working. And after you finish working, you'll get like a fixed stipend. These people have to calculate nothing while they're working because there's nothing that they own while they're working in a pension pot. But there's defined contribution schemes. These are schemes that you opt into. You could opt into this one or that one. You can opt out of it. It's an investment that's growing for you in your name. No one owns it but you. It's true it's locked away, but it's locked away almost by choice so that you can benefit from this longer term investment, like a long form of what we lock away in a savings account or in a bond investment scheme or something like that. So it is a long-term thing, but it was by choice and nobody owns it but you. This is the problem. And so it is your wealth, and then the needy do have a right in it, but not all of it. It's the proportion of it that is zakatable. And we have some online resources. They'll show you what this looks like. So I'll come back to this, but we say yes, an defined contribution scheme, pension scheme. It's your investment in your name. You owe zakat on the zakatable proportion of it. And I'll explain what that looks like in a little bit. Cryptocurrencies, we say if these are payment tokens like Bitcoin and Litecoin, then it's treated as money, added to the money in your calculation. If it's other forms of crypto tokens that are not used like money, then you don't owe zakat on it unless you bought them to sell them, in which case you owe zakat on their market value. I finished, by the way. That's the full list of zakatable assets. Money, gold, silver, trade stock, a proportion of shares, a proportion of pensions, your crypto payment. That's it. That's my exhaustive list, by the way. Can you see why it's still money, gold, silver, trade stock, and what contains and acts like? So it's quite a consistent, full system. Now, investment for children. If you've invested money for your children, scholars of the Hanafi school said there's no zakat until they hit puberty, because before that, not reliable for their worship. Other scholars felt, no, there is a zakat. The Muslim public, if you like, have a right in it, and the guardians have to calculate and pay it. Again, we teach both and let people choose what accords with their understandings and practice. What do you subtract? That's what you add. What do you subtract? You subtract debts and liabilities that are due on the date. It could be a bill, a fee, a fine, something that you actually owe on the date, something that's been committed, an invoice. It can't be something that is anticipated, like next week's bus fare or next week's lunch bill. It's not like that. It's already due. Now, we live in a strange time of long-term debt commitments. In these long-term debt commitments, we're legally protected. A bank will never come knocking on your door for 24 years of mortgage payments. They are only expecting the cycle of payments. And so in these payments, what we say is that you should, you are allowed to deduct up to 12 months worth of repayments, the principal, not the interest. We say that for mortgage repayments. We say that for car repayments. We say that for student loans. Whatever you're going to pay in the next 12 months, that's what you deduct, nothing else. Basically, I'm done. I just want to show you the online resources. So I'm going to just stop sharing and reshare.
Please be my guest.
Thank you very much. Sorry, and after I'll just go back briefly to the presentation and then we're done. Just another 5 minutes, hopefully. So this is the NZF website, nzf.org.uk. I just want to show or show off, whichever you want to interpret, this button here called Calculate. If you click on Calculate, it's a wonderful host of services. You can book a free consultation with the Mufti, talk through your personal situation. You can look at the Nisab rates today. That's the one I was using today, the 1,069. So it's gone up by £17 since yesterday when I gave the presentation last night. Not giving investment advice at all. I've got nothing invested in silver myself. You can look back in the last 20 years as well. If you're doing a past calculation, you can download PDF guides, Zakat guide, business guide, Miss Zakat guide. There's a knowledge bank. Unfortunately, there's a guy called Zaki who's gone missing right now. We just refreshed the website yesterday. Zaki is an intelligent AI chatbot, but when I did my presentation last night, Zaki was missing. So Zaki will come back soon. But until Zaki comes back, you've got all these frequently asked questions, and you can search in the knowledge bank as well. Here's the one on pensions. I just wanted to show you what I was referring to about that research. It's actually here. Sorry, there's this banner on top, but this is what I'm referring to. So you can see it on the bottom of your screen. Depending on your pension pot, on the far right is what we're recommending the zakat will be based on what is zakatable in these types of pensions. Anyway, that's the summary of our advice on that. If you can't find the answer you want, you can just send in a question and we'll get back to you with either a tailored answer or a link to the knowledge bank. The calculator is a really smart calculator. It summarizes and follows the logic of my entire presentation. Just click on the assets that you have. I'm going to pretend I have all of these. And you literally just go through the calculation. Just say what you have, follow the questions. There's some help buttons with gold. You can put the weight and it already calculates the scrap gold worth. If you've forgotten what the scholars' debate on jewelry was, it's in the help button. That's it. Just go through the calculator. It's really helpful. It's really useful. And it will cover all of what I've shared today. Last thing, just because I'm on the website, this is if you go to contact us and volunteer, this is where if you're interested in educating, in supporting a community in any particular way, if you just give us your details, we'll empower you, we'll train you, we'll give you resources to just support in your community. Last 2 minutes, I'm just going to unshare and reshare, and then I'm completely done. We talked a little bit about the importance of developing the local community. So all I'll say is that if you haven't started doing this, I do recommend you start paying at least some of your zakat where you live, because it's going to start your own journey in understanding what the situation is. Because most people still don't know, and you won't know until you get involved what really is happening on the ground in your communities. And that's the only organization we have in the UK for the nationwide collection and distribution of zakat. We help people with hardship grants, with housing support, and with training to secure employment. And we've increasingly started partnering with mosques and centers in the country so that people can find zakat in the local community and start a journey of real community development. Got a number of services for zakat givers, including this heat map. You can type your postcode and see what zakat we've raised or distributed. You get a zakat tracker email to let you know when and where your zakat has been distributed. We are part of a global movement. We have an NZF in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Netherlands, Germany, and growing. UK is an old stat, but sadly it's not improved substantially. UK Muslims are the poorest actually faith community in the UK, which obviously is a problem that we have to come to face with. This data is from a census survey that we commissioned in 2022. We've just commissioned a brand new one. So there will be brand new census data now coming out in the next week on Muslim needs in the UK. But the truth of the matter is that there is a dire situation. Anyone who works on the front line in a mosque, in a food bank, you can ask us as well. There's a lot of need in our community in the UK that people actually aren't talking about. You'll know people that don't know what zakat is, don't know why it's important, don't know why they should pay it. No one can reach your community like you can. So if you want to support educating workshops, if you want to train up and educate others, just get in touch with us. We'll do what we can to support you. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you very much for your time.
Jazakallah khair. Amazing, amazing. That was so good. And it's so nice to see all of the great work, inshallah, that you guys are doing. So let's share my screen because there's a lot of questions. We'll try and do our best. Not sure if we'll get to all of them. Okay. Let's see if this works. So hopefully we will bring it back. Oh, where's my screen? Okay. So I just want to say Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much again, Dr. Sohail, for your time and your efforts and everything that the NZF is doing. MashaAllah, amazing cause. Is there any, the final thing I want to say, you have an event tonight. Do you want to tell people very quickly?
Yeah, tell them.
No, you tell them.
I have to open up my phone. There's an event somewhere in Houston today. Normally I only look up the address when I'm about to leave the house, but let me quickly open up my phone.
But what is
There's a
it
meeting in
like?
Houston today. It's held by Iqbal Naseem, who was the previous CEO and the founding, really, CEO of NZF. He runs an online podcast called In Good Faith. There's a panel of about 6 speakers. I'm one of them. Includes Omar Salha, founder of Ramadan 10 Project. Includes Zara Muhammad, previous Secretary General of Council of Muslim Council of Britain, and a few others. And doors open at 6 p.m. There's a ticket tailor link. Don't know how I can send this to you. If you just look for, it's called The Public Forum. It's called The Public Forum by In Good Faith. If you Google it, you probably find the ticketing thing. It's free. You can just book your place.
But just so people know what it is, it's like what program on TV?
Oh, it's like a question time type of thing. So it's a panel. There's an audience. There's some questions that the moderators have received in advance and not told us about. And also you can raise your questions there as well.
Amazing. Okay. And with that...
Thank you. I appreciate that reminder.
No problem. Okay, well, Barakallah Feek, thank you so much again for your time. And thank you everyone for joining us today and all your questions and interactivity. We do hope you benefited. Please, as always, if you did benefit, a review on Trustpilot goes a long way, or just share the NISBA project with loved ones. So, Jazakallah khair, thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next one. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Assalamu alaikum.
Now, can everyone see that? Can you see the questions?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so we'll go back to the first one. And obviously, Doctor, if you don't want to answer, just tell me to skip it. No problem. Or if you feel like you've covered it, just skip it.
Okay, sure.
So,
will the slides be shared? I'll just do the top one.
Yes.
Will the slides be shared? So they can be. And the slides I've used, they do have full notes on the bottom. If you wanted to even very informally share it in your family, you actually have the notes, which on every slide. So I can give this to you at NISBA, and you can figure out if you want to.
Yeah,
how you want to do this. Then
I'll
just remind me afterwards.
I'll add it to the post-event email. So, if we live in the UK, can I not share my zakah in India?
Okay. Very important question. So I don't like to make this an either-or thing about UK and not overseas. So what I said was the essential sunnah is about building a network where we actually live, actually in the communities where we live. That's why at NZF, although we've been doing work nationwide, we're increasingly trying to understand how to form community-level distribution, which is why actually even now, even if you pay zakat to us online, we'll do our absolute best to match it to someone in your area before we have to take it further away. So we're trying our best to really create that localized distribution. However, the classical scholars had a good, healthy debate on the boundaries of this. So some scholars felt your local community have a greater right to your zakat than your relatives who are further away. Other scholars felt no, relatives have a good right and it's fine to take the zakat there. Some scholars felt the needy in your community have a greater right, even if there's a greater need outside. Other scholars felt no, if there's a greater need, you can take it there. So there's a leeway on the boundaries here. So I don't want you to feel trapped, or I don't want you to feel that I'm saying you must pay all zakat in the UK or all zakat in local community. But what I'd like us to think is we have to balance our rights. Just like you don't give all of your importance to your wife and forget your mum, or your kids and you forget your brothers. We have this difficult thing of seeing to our rights to the best of our abilities. So I've argued for today is the right of the neighbor in faith, which the zakat does speak of. But there are, you have the full leeway to choose to help people who you're related to, who you have another tie to that you feel you should be honoring. That's absolutely fine, which is why I say we have a collective duty to build a system that works where we live. After that, individuals can choose where they feel it is most virtuous, most fitting, most suitable in their heart for them to be spending their zakat. And the best answer I have is if you can do a bit of both, and at least you've seen to both groups of rights. That's the best answer that I have. So you can definitely share your zakat in your home community and country as well.
Okay. Next question from Wahid. Do we pay zakat on precious metals other than gold and silver, like palladium or copper? Are there different rules if they're being held for short-term trading or long-term holding?
So the basic answer is no. Nothing else in the universe is like gold and silver. And something historically, and even this recent buzz that's been happening, when people lose faith in the economy, they go back to gold and silver. It's very interesting. And so gold and silver have this, really, we have to say, God-given ability, really, to be a universal store of value and to be a store of trust and confidence. No other metal or precious rock has worked like diamonds are valuable, but you can't make an economy off of diamonds. You can't give change of diamonds. That's part of the virtues of gold and silver. They can be molded. You can create smaller units. You can do change. It restores value. It doesn't. There's a lot of features that gold and silver have. No other substance has actually shared in. That's why the sacred law treats gold and silver intrinsically as a fundamental unit of money. No other item works like that. So any other item is only zakatable if you're trading in it. And trading is you bought it to sell it. Now we come to the second part of your question. I don't have a hard and fast answer, but I'll say it generally as follows. If your main intention is you bought it to liquidate it, and you're holding it for that purpose, it's a trade item, and you owe zakat on its value. The fact that you feel holding it for longer gives you a better return, your intention is still clear. I'm holding it to liquidate it. If in between you start having another utility for it, then it stops. But if it doesn't enter into another utility, then it's just you're holding it to sell it. Then that's how you should view it. Allahu A'lam.
I think it's interesting because whenever we hear the word trading or investing, I think in your terminology, effectively they're the same thing. Because in the investment community, trading is often thought as a short-term buying and selling. But really, an investment and a trading here is no different because you're always buying it with the intention to sell it. No one is buying an ETF of copper or palladium so that they can use it. They're buying it to sell it at a later date with a profit. So it should always be treated as such, as a stock item.
I guess you're right. The reason why I'm saying I guess you're right, I'm trying to create that space for the example of the man who bought the second house without any clear vision. Because, and you're welcome to argue with me on this, Father. We can do a whole debate. That'll be the best segment of the call, is the debate you and I have right now. But I'm not saying it has to be seen this way, but I feel we have to create that space because we live in such a volatile monetary system that it makes sense not to sit on money and to put money somewhere. And many people who are not money-minded, meaning that they're not growth-minded, they're not savvy on how to grow money. They just want to keep it safe. They're not trying to do anything too intelligent with it. And they just think, they fall back on property. But it's not clear to them. If you said to them, are you going to sell this property? For some people, it's not that clear because they've also got kids and property has a utility for them. So it's some gray space in their head between the money will grow, but actually my son can take it. Actually, maybe I'll sell this house and I'll move into that one. And maybe the house I'm living in will. So it's just that space of managing money without the savviness of trying to grow it by moving things between asset classes, which is what trading is. Trading is shifting asset classes to get that profit. So I just want maybe you can help me get the right language for this.
I think when you're talking about the example of property, that makes sense for sure. But when you are looking at any other investment where you are opening up a trading platform, a brokerage platform like Trading 212 or AJ Bell, and you are depositing cash and you are buying these things, whether it's an ETF, there's no utility there. You can never, if you buy a palladium fund, unfortunately, you can't use that palladium to go fix your Toyota Prius, even though like Priuses use palladium. So in that scenario, I can't imagine that you would ever buy these things without the intention of growing your money. So I feel like that from what you've described is...
Let me ask you a question.
But please.
What about shares? Because shares haven't got a utility. Like I can't get a share and do anything with it. So you'd say at some point, but I still wanted to create a distinction of the trader in shares who, if he gets the right price, he's ready to liquidate. And I wanted to create a space for the longer term holder of the share, who's again not doing that savvy shifting of asset classes. They've got this thing. It seems like a new item. It seems like a good way to keep money. And obviously there's a dividend. So there's a utility of dividend, you see, which is still a form of utility. Maybe that's all that they're happy with. But in the back of their mind, think, fine, if they come on a hard time, I'll sell it. It's another thing. But they're not looking for a buyer. They don't have anyone telling them about buyers. It's not. So how would you place this one now?
For me, in my mind, it's exactly the same, because you would never buy these things with the intention of doing nothing with it. The intention is always, I'm buying it to make more money, whether it's in a year or in 40 years. The aim is inshallah, I'm going to make money by selling it and turning it back into cash and using the cash to go spend it in Tesco's or whatever, or, pass it down to my kids. So I can't quite grasp that concept where you're differentiating between a trader and an investor, because in my mind, you buy to sell. You might not sell it tomorrow, you might not sell it for a decade, but you're always buying it to sell.
So what I'll do, I'll pause the debate here so we can get the other questions. Now, I actually value what you're saying. All I'll say for the interest of the attendees is if you have so I've given a summary of some items I've shared. If you've got particular holdings you want to know more about, what I'd probably say is if you would like to, you can book a consultation with the Mufti. You can send in a question for someone to consider. Just because what I've tried to show in this discussion we've just had is I feel there's some space for a gray area of undetermined. If you think that's you, just reach out and ask. Otherwise, the logic of what Adil's showing is very, very clear as well. So I'm not even arguing with you, but I just want to just maybe give people the sense, if you have any doubts, find out. Otherwise, as much as possible, if you're predominantly trading, it's zakat. If you're predominantly not trading, it's not zakat. There could be stuff in the middle you want to know more about, then please ask. So I'll just leave it there then. But I really value your comments.
You're very kind of the people, mashallah, very just ruler. Okay.
I'm a teacher and I love debate.
Yeah, we'll save it for the podcast, inshallah. Okay, let's try and whiz through these because we've only got 20 minutes. So, Roshni said, what do we owe? Does this include the mortgage? I feel like you've covered this.
I think we answered that later in the presentation, probably.
Okay, and you covered this as well. What if you've been earning but have not paid zakat and wasn't sure how it's calculated? What do we do for previous years?
Yeah, I think I've answered that. If any of you feel I've not answered it, please type it again underneath. But I feel we've answered that.
Can your zakat be like your birthday, for example, so it's memorable? The recommendation is use the lunar calendar, right?
It's lunar calendar, and the other thing is, ideally, it should be tied to. Ideally, we should make it memorable, like an anniversary. Anniversary is something you forget it once, you never forget it again. It's just there's an internal mechanism. It's like birthday of a spouse. I forgot it once, I never forgot it again.
Yeah.
It's really good. So you just want that same thing. It's a zakat thing. You want to only forget it once and never forget it again. So find a way to make it its own memorable date as much as you can.
The problem is as well, if you use the Gregorian calendar, actually it's more than 2.5% that you'd have to pay, right? Because the year is longer.
Some people recommend it like that's 2.55 or something. Yeah. They do they do that for businesses. I don't think it's best for individuals just to keep it as I presented it today.
Okay. What if you believe you've underpaid zakat previously, but you aren't entirely sure and it will be difficult to figure out?
In these things, you want to follow your best guess. I mean, what you don't want to fall into is this rabbit hole. Like you think, I probably paid less, you pay more. And then in 3 years' time, you think, maybe that was less as well. Let me pay more. Then maybe that, you don't want to be in this infinite loop. You want to just close it and then go into the future. So all I'll say is ask yourself, what's the basis of this feeling? If the basis is something evidentiary, something that you think, oh, I never knew about shares. Now I know about shares. So fine, calculate that one thing. I never knew about gold. Now I know about gold. So you want to evidence it. Why do you feel that way? And then calculate based on that and then finish it. Don't be stuck in the past. That's my only advice.
I usually do the first Jum'ah of Ramadan, but realize that changes. So what's the best course of action to move to a fixed date?
It's not bad. What you've got is not bad. I mean, in terms of the movement is little between those. If you want to make it more fixed, which is better, then it's like I said, it's doing your best, nudging yourself into the closest thing to what seems most likely. So I'd say it's not bad what you've got. If you want to change it, and it's better to make it fixed, it's just to your best guess, just fix one number.
Okay, next one. So if we're moving forward, if we choose our zakat to be paid on August 2026, from what year do we backtrack our expenses?
Isn't that interesting? No, hang on. That was the other question. If we're moving forwards, if you choose a zakat paid on August 26, to the best of your guess, that's why I said the lunar calendar helps, and you've got these online lunar calendars. They'll just make it easier. Figure out what the lunar date is and just go back on it. So what you can do, it is a bit of a headache. That's why I said take out an afternoon. But what it could look like is as follows. Let's say the lunar equivalent is 10th of Rabi' al-Awwal, for example. And you just use these online converters. And this year, it's 10th of Rabi' al-Awwal, Rabi' al-Awwal 1447. So just figure out an online calculator, 1446. When was it? Oh, it was that date. It was October, not whatever. One before. Just get all your dates down. Write them all down. That will take you 10, 15 minutes. Once you've got all the dates down, then you go into your best guess with your bank statements, your investment portfolio, your memory of mortgages and bills and fines, and just best guess. Always saying is best guess.
I guess any extra effort you put in, like, because this is an act of our deen, inshallah, would come with its own like hasanat, right?
Without a doubt. And you're putting more effort in to catch up for what you've missed, and we hope that will be received with great grace and mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Definitely. In doing it for the sake of the needy, like I said earlier, that's part of the blueprints of what we have to do as well.
Yeah, we did the pensions and mortgage. Children's assets we covered as well.
Yeah, we covered that as well.
Inheritance that is fixed is an asset. Is that another example? So how do you deal with inheritance?
Inheritance that fixed in an asset. So the idea is you've inherited a share of a property. You didn't acquire it to sell it. So unless it's gold and silver, there's no zakat on it.
Nice. Okay. If, for example, you have savings and you pay 2.5% zakat, which is 250, and say the following year you now have 15k savings, do you pay 2.5% on the entire 15k or just on the 5k difference?
On the entire. So some people have this notion that it's only the bit you grew in that year, and that's not the case. It's the full amount of that asset class every year.
Just on this, I have a question. If I imagine the answer will be, but imagine you have your picture for the year, but like a couple of days before your zakat date, you've come into some money. It doesn't matter, right? You haven't held it for a full year. You
still pay zakat on it.
You take a snapshot.
You might feel it's, if I can use the word unfair, I just got it, but you'll probably realize in other years it's the other way around. When you had your money and you just spent it, and now you don't pay zakat on it. So it's kind of, I think, balances out over your life. That's what it looks like to me.
Okay. This one. Did you say 100% pure gold? Do you mean 24 karat gold?
No. 50% pure gold, 12 karat gold.
Okay.
12 carats and above.
Is there an opinion that it's 40%, not 25%?
There was an opinion. So I think NZF needs to do this again now because it's been a few years. So NZF was the source of this through some initial work that we did, that we said the best thing on shares is 40%. We used to advise that 6 years ago or 7 years ago or something like that. Definitely 8 years ago we used to. Anyway. And I know other people took that number from NZF, and then about 5-6 years ago, we did that repeat piece of work, and then we started advising 25%. So that's our most recent. So the 40% does exist, but they might be copying old NZF when they say that. That's the only thing you can look into.
What if your share is property for long term? You'll eventually sell or liquidate, but right now it's for investment.
So that's the debate we just had
Yeah.
earlier on today. So
Yeah, inshallah, you'll get a copy of the slides. Does the rule for children's investment apply to children's gold too?
Yep, 100%. So the Hanafi scholars will say there's no zakat on the gold of children till they hit puberty because it's their responsibility and they don't have responsibility before puberty. And others say, no, this is a wealth, and so the public have a right to it. So it's the two opinions.
Someone's not happy about the pensions.
I've warned you.
DC pensions have control, but no ownership, not until 60 years, and may not get.
It's actually the other way around. It's ownership without control. Like it's yours.
Yeah, you can't.
But you don't have the full ability in it. But it is yours. No one else owns it but you.
Okay, I don't think it's a question. I think it's just a statement. This one is a question. What about trusts? You have access, but you're not taking it out until retirement.
So it's similar. It's whatever is zakatable of it. That's why if somebody is managing wealth for someone, they should manage the asset classes in a way to minimize the zakat burden. And there's a variety of things you can put your money in that would have a minimum zakat burden. And I'll give you one example just because it came to my mind, which is you probably, the group called FIDA.
Yes.
And what they do is it's a communal house purchase product. So they tell their investors there's no zakat on their investments. And the reason why they say it is, it goes back to our debate slightly, but the way they say it is, you're putting money in to pool together to purchase a property which is not to be sold, but you're facilitating a rental agreement. Anyway, you can look at their documentation, but the way they say it is, this is not an item for sale, it's an item for rent, and we're doing this together communally. And so you are not sharing a trade item. And it's held in bricks and mortar, not held in gold and silver or cash. So anyway, what I'm trying to get at is you might agree or disagree with the example, but the idea is there's forms of investments that minimize the zakat burden. And it's good if you're concerned like this to think about that within your investment thinking, basically.
So it's not un-Islamic to try and minimize your zakat burden.
Yeah, very good. So it's not un-Islamic at all, because the truth of the matter is the only way you minimize your zakat burden really is by putting money to use in the economy. And so the message of zakat isn't that rich people can't be rich. It's that this liquid forms of wealth shouldn't be sat on. You should either give some to the poor and let it circulate, or let it move to the economy, take on risk-taking in the economy, join the trade economy, facilitate people working, and that will also circulate wealth. It will create opportunities. You shouldn't be sitting on it. And so there's no crime in minimizing zakat burden. What is the crime? It's that the zakat date has come and you owe zakat and you don't pay it. That's the crime. Prior to that, if you're managing your ingoings and outgoings, there's no harm in that. You're managing for the sake of your own family independence. And normally the management is by getting money working, which will also create an advantage for people. There's no easy way to manage it otherwise. No, there is, but anyway, that's part of how it works.
That's why we have the famous hadith from Umar ibn Khattab, right? To make sure you invest the money of the orphans so that it's not eaten away by zakat.
Correct. But that's normally, like I said, it is in some form of risk bearing.
Yeah.
And it creates some advantage for people.
There's quite a few questions. I don't know if we're going to get to them all, so I'm just going to have a quick look. All right, this one's an interesting one. 0% interest-free credit card debt. You have savings to specifically pay off at a later date, i.e. 3 years, 6 months' time, but you could pay immediately. Do you deduct it from your wealth?
Okay. 0% interest-free card debt. Credit card debt. You have savings to specifically pay off at a later date. I don't know what that sentence means.
So I imagine you have a total amount of debt, let's say £5,000, and you technically have it saved now, so you could pay it, but you're just going to pay it slowly because you've got the 0%.
So you can deduct that because it's a debt that is due. So all debts that are due, you can deduct.
Okay. There was another one that I thought was quite interesting. Here, this one. If your student debt repayment is more than the total amount of money total amount of your money, gold, etc., does that mean zakat is not applicable on that person?
So what we advise is the amount you're going to be paying back in the upcoming 12 months. And if the amount you're going to be paying back in the upcoming 12 months is greater than what you have, then you don't have to be paying zakat.
Nice, thank you. Gold. Everyone's concerned about their gold now because it's worth so much. Was it a question a few years ago? I have various gold items, different carats, plated, some with stones. Shall I use the scrap gold metal value, like you mentioned?
Yes, 100%.
I think this is a nice, easy one. Can I split my zakat across different charities?
Of course.
Yeah. In terms of the needy recipient, could I give zakat to my cousin and maternal aunt?
Okay. It's a very important question. Why is it important? Because in the course of managing our time, I focus more on the giving of the giver. Most of us give through organizations and places of trust. So you just have to trust the person you're giving to that they'll handle it, and they have a zakat policy, and they have oversight in their Sharia administration, and then you can trust them with it. Some people give the zakat directly, and there's no harm or blame or blemish in that. Now, if you're giving your zakat directly, then there's a particular etiquette of the giving. Like I said, if you're giving through an organization, you just have to know that they've got a policy that you trust. That's it. That's your done. If you're giving yourself, then this is how it works. If you're giving to your cousin, which is a very important person to support with your zakat, it's your relatives, you don't need to be going into things like, give us your bank statement and prove to me that, give me your outgoings, let me calculate. You don't have to calculate like that because it's going to be intrusive. We do things like that at NZF because we don't have personal relationships in that way, and we're representing our givers, and we have a sort of national reach. And so we investigate. We say, give us your bank statements, give us your rent contract, or give us your university credit. We investigate. But if you're doing it interpersonally, you don't investigate like that, and it's very intrusive. All you need to do is to see something which gives you reason to believe the person is needy. What does the word needy mean? It means that two ways you could look at this. One is that they are struggling to meet their basic expenses of food, clothing, and shelter. The way to look at it is, to your best guess, their surplus holdings are below the value of the nisab in the country where they live. Either of the two are good enough. Best guess. You don't have to know 100%. If you've done your best guess, then you can give it to them. You don't have to tell them that it's zakat as well, and that's perfectly fine. Back to you.
Thank you. Okay, there's two more here, and then I think that probably brings us to time. Is it okay to save towards zakat throughout the year? For example, if you know you will likely owe 1K, then putting away a small amount per month towards it till you meet zakat, and then recalculating on the nisab date.
Absolutely fine. And like I said, it's absolutely fine just to pay it out as well, meaning as you're saving towards 1,000, let's say the monthly thing is whatever, £90 or whatever, you're welcome just to pay it out as well. And you're welcome to hold it and then to calculate at the end. So it's all good.
I had an interesting session with a sheikh or mashayikh recently. And because obviously people always feel like, I'm going to I have my zakat day in, let's say, Ramadan, and I pay it then. And I'm going to make sure I want to do it on the 25th night or the 27th night to try and maximize the benefit for myself. But if there is a cause that you are donating to and they need it before, potentially that is more important. So to give it to them when they need it, as opposed to waiting and trying to maximize the benefit from like the 25th night.
Yeah, I think that's a very good call. But that's what you have to understand. So our commitment to our givers, for example, is we're distributing within the lunar year, because most of the money comes in the last week of Ramadan.
Yeah.
But the people we're helping all year long. But so if you're giving yourself, then correct. That's a very appropriate way to think about it.
Okay, maybe this is the last one. What if I have gold items I was gifted but don't have the actual cash to pay the zakat?
So you've got a couple of options there. The one option obviously is to liquidate some of the gold and to pay it from that liquid. One option is you can pay in kind. So let's say the zakat that you owe is, let's say, £1,000 from your gold. You could pay in any item worth £1,000. So even your second-hand computer, if you know someone who would benefit from that, or a second-hand jacket, if someone benefit from that, but you have to evaluate what it's worth on that day as a second-hand item, not what you bought it for. So you can pay zakat in kind. You can pay it through the part of the gold. You can liquidate the gold, but it's within that you'll have to make your move.
Okay. Okay. I imagine there are many other questions, but I think, I don't want to. We agreed to 1:15, and I don't want to go over your time. So